Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibiers, welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Good to have you here. I'm taking the time to work on new t-shirt designs because that's kind of become my new favorite thing to do. And also all week until Friday, 10% off in the merch store. It's in the link below the description of the video here or the audio, whatever you're looking at. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe and give me a like. It helps to push out the channel to people who may not know I exist, but like true crime, appreciate it. It's a really easy way to support the podcast with just the click of your index finger. So I appreciate you guys very much. I'm going to do a music fact. We're jumping right in. We have so much to cover. I think these documents may take the rest of the week. People have asked about picking up Letitia Stalk again. And honestly, I just sort of needed a break from moms and stepmoms killing their kids. Even though I did the story yesterday with Chad Doerman, it just, coming off of Vallow, it really was a lot to read about what Gannon went through. So I'm just taking a little step back, and then I'm really going to focus on the facts of the case of what happened to Gannon. I'm not getting into all of Letitia's 50 personalities or her shenanigans because I just really am sick of these women, to be honest with you. But I do want to tell his story of what happened to him. And then we'll sum that up maybe in a couple of episodes. I might actually wait until the week of the 4th and pre-record and finish that up then. But I appreciate you guys being understanding. It gets to be a lot talking about kids all day, every day, being hurt or killed by people that they trust. And it just was a little much for me. So I just stepped back. A lot of people have inboxed, and I wanted to kind of explain that I really wanted to just protect myself. So anyways, music fact of the day, the Muppet animal who plays the drums, his character was actually inspired by Keith Moon from The Who. Did not know that. Always loved Animal. He was my favorite Muppet, and being a rock and roll chick totally makes sense. We are going to get into Kouri Richins' Google search history. Let's go through some of those. Very revealing. Can you delete everything on an iCloud account? Can you delete everything off an old iPhone without actually having it? Can you change the password remotely of a lost cell phone? Can deleted text messages be retrieved from an iPhone? What do cops do when they seize electronics? What information can be obtained from a cell phone? Women Utah prison. That's a good one to look at, sister, because it looks like you might be having a long-term stay there. Can cops uncover deleted messages? iPhone. How to lock my iCloud. How to erase phone data permanently with EMI number. How to permanently delete information from an iPhone remotely. Can cops force you to do a lie detector test? What are you allowed inside Utah jails? Death certificate says pending. Will life insurance still pay? Luxury prisons for the rich in America. Girlfriend, you wasn't rich. You thought you were, but I just went through some filings and you were not rich. You weren't. Your husband was. If someone is poisoned, what does it go down on the death certificate as? FBI analysis of electronics in an investigation. Can the FBI find deleted messages? Can the cause of death be changed on a death certificate? When does the FBI get involved in a case? How long do life insurance companies take to pay? What is a lethal dose of fentanyl? What kind of doctor was Dr. Pepper? She Googled that. That's actually kind of one of my 3 a.m. can't sleep searches, so I'm going to let that one slide. Apple stores near me. Ranches for sale. Is Lil Nas married? Idaho cabin getaways. Kelly Pickler husband. I think she might have been looking up Kelly Pickler's husband passed away at his own hands. And I think maybe she might have just been Googling articles about that. Federal Correctional Institution in Dublin, California. What is presumptive positive for naloxone, which is similar to morphine? Can you OD on naloxone? Adults only resorts in Los Angeles. California women escape getaway. Beachfront hotels in California. Then she did a vanity search. Kouri Richins realty net worth. Kouri Richins net worth. Crusty cracks in the corner of mouth. How to delete Facebook. Cracks on side of lip won't heal. Alter egos. Let go of what we can't change. You can't change the fact you into Pokey Sister. Is Find My iPhone ever wrong? No credit construction loan. Lorazepam. Jason Aldean, Utah. How to heat a horse arena. Is the medical examiner and autopsy report different? Salt Lake City to Denver. Justin Moore, Why We Drink. Fentanyl found in marijuana gummies. Nickelodeon Resort. Why is my Tempur-Pedic remote flashing? First time is forgiveness, is second time stupidity. What does privacy warning mean on Wi-Fi? Richins, family donations to Summit County. Now, just to note, from everything I understand, Eric's family was very well known and well-to-do in this community. They had made a good life for themselves. Circle R Ranch donates Summit County. Then she Googles the detective that we did the interview with yesterday, Detective James Woody, relationship to Richins' family. She Googles if the mayor of Park City is related to the Richins. Richins' family ties to police force, Summit County. Private donations to Summit County Police Department. Did Sheldon Richins donate money to Summit County or Park City? Sheldon Richins donates to Park City. How to find if a family donated to a police department. What is required for a defamation lawsuit? How to turn someone in for hiring illegal employees. How can someone get a fine for illegal employees? Labor Commission, Utah. Sell a social security number. What happens if you give Narcan to someone who doesn't need it? Is circumstances unknown an accident? April 16th, she Googled 3 ways to remove microblading. April 17th, Good Housekeeping Easter ideas. It was for recipes, Easter baskets, crafts. I manually typed in all these web addresses and saw what came up, by the way. Then she went to summitcounty.org on April 18th. It takes you to the county attorney's page. Then that same day, Kent U, online degrees, sociology and criminal justice. This actually takes you to blogs about prisons and criminal justice as a whole. And one of the things that was listed as a blog post: do prisons have air conditioner? How much do prisoners make in each state? What percentage of the U.S. is incarcerated? What happens to deleted messages? So I read this article that she went to and read. What happens to deleted messages? And in the article, it talks about just in general how over the last 20 years, cell phones have become the way to investigate a lot of cases. And it also says with encryption on modern cell phones, it has made investigating digital activity a little more complex. They talk about the San Bernardino terrorist attack and how Apple was ordered by the FBI to extract data from the suspect's iPhone, and Apple refused to do it. Apple CEO Tim Cook called it an unprecedented step which threatens the security of our customers, and further stated Apple believed that doing this would set a precedent that would undermine the privacy of people across the world. Ultimately, the FBI found a third-party app or company to unlock the phone, and nothing incriminating was found on the San Bernardino murderer's phone. Is it possible to recover deleted iPhone data? It says there's no simple answer that involves a ton of factors that could affect the outcome. The age of the device, the make and model, the type of security or encryption used, and the frequency of backups. It can get complex if a suspect has wiped the phone. Can police read texts that have been deleted? It says they're usually retrievable from phones, but law enforcement needs a court order before they can try. They can use forensic tools to extract emails, text, images, and location pings. Deleting messages only unlists the message from your inbox. It will eventually get overwritten, but it could take months. Third-party apps such as WhatsApp, it's harder to get those deleted texts due to the level of encryption that they have. She goes to an article on Vox.com titled "Police Can't Read Your iMessages, but here's what they can see." It explains if you're sending a message to another iPhone or iPad, if you're an Apple user, how that little bubble is blue, but if you send a message to somebody who's not on Apple, it's green. Apple stores information for 30 days, and they have far less information about the messages than a cell provider has on their customers. So if you have Verizon, they're going to have more information about a deleted text than Apple can retrieve. Carriers would likely be able to determine not only exactly what message was sent and when, but also where the user was when they sent that message. Because iMessage is encrypted end to end, we do not have access to the contents of those communications, according to Apple. In some cases, we are able to provide data from server logs that are generated from customers accessing certain apps on their devices. All this is a reminder that just because a message is encrypted doesn't mean there are no digital breadcrumbs left behind. On April 24th, she Googled Zillow for Heber City, Utah. At 10:38 p.m. on April 24th, a news article, 5 things you need to know about the new Utah State Prison. By the way, this was last year, 2022, when these searches happened. She accessed a news article, 5 things you need to know about the new Utah State Prison and when the old one will be torn down. This is an article from November of 2021 that explains how a years-long and controversial saga of building a new prison from scratch was happening. The groundbreaking took place in 2017 and said to be one of the largest construction endeavors in the state's history. It goes on to detail things about the new prison, the features inside, and that kind of thing. April 26th of last year, she Googles best romantic restaurants in Park City. April 28th, BladenOnline.com, and it's an article, delay in claim payment for death certificate with pending cause of death. The article goes on to say Insurance Commissioner Mike Causey has issued an advisory to all life insurers writing individual and group coverage in North Carolina of their obligation to pay death benefits as required by law. The advisory was issued at the request of the North Carolina Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, who had been receiving consumer inquiries due to the delayed payment of life insurance benefits because death certificates were issued with the cause of death listed as pending. Medical examiners are required to make a medical certification as to the cause of death within 3 days and must file a death certificate within 5 days. However, there are times where a medical examiner cannot determine the cause of death within the time frame, and in those cases, the medical examiner may list the cause of death as pending on a death certificate. Insurers are not allowed to withhold payment of a death benefit to any beneficiary longer than reasonably necessary to determine whether benefits are payable. After a life insurance policy has been enforced for 2 years, an insurer's ability to contest the validity of the policy is limited. In most cases, an insurer only needs to know that an insured has died. The cause of death has no impact on whether benefits are payable. As a result, the payment of benefits should not be delayed because the cause of death on a death certificate is listed as pending. Goes on to say, I appreciate the North Carolina Office of the Chief Medical Examiner bringing this issue to our attention. It's always important that insurance benefits are promptly paid, especially in situations where someone has lost a family member. I encourage insurers, when possible, to accept a death certificate issued by a medical examiner with a pending cause of death as sufficient proof of loss to facilitate prompt and fair claim settlement. So clearly, she's trying to see when she's going to get paid. We're going to get probably tomorrow into the absolute drama of what Eric did in 2020 and into 2021 after Kouri was just spending money like it grew on trees. It's interesting. It all kind of starts to come together, and it will, I think, by the end of the week when we get through these episodes. I'm telling you guys, the motive becomes clear with every page I read. April 28th, 2022, article titled, Cause of Death Usually Doesn't Impact Life Insurance Payment Unless Self-Harm Was Involved and occurred within the contestability period. May 1st, Google iCloud photo. FollowMeAway.com cabins in Idaho. May the 2nd, she visited a YouTube channel called Bronx and Donks. It's a community with cowboy videos. I checked a few out. Save a horse, ride a cowboy. May 8th, Country Fan Fest. May 10th, article, FBI conducted potentially millions of searches of Americans' data last year. It says searches and national security investigations came without warrants, could stoke privacy concerns in Congress. She also that day make use of a website The article was How Do Police and Forensic Analysts Recover Data from Deleted Phones? Are you tired of choosing between taking care of your skin and wearing makeup? I find that most cosmetics have ingredients that make my skin dry, or that most clean makeup just doesn't do what I hope it would. I'm really, really glad I found Kosas. I love Revealer Concealer because it's packed with active skincare ingredients, and it offers creaseless medium coverage with a smooth, radiant finish that looks like your skin, just brighter, more even, and healthier. Take the 5-step Shade Finder quiz to find out your perfect match. My current favorite is the Glow IV Vitamin Infused Skin Illuminating Enhancer. I can skip using highlighter because it's in the makeup. So don't choose between wearing great makeup and taking care of your skin. Right now, Kosas is offering my listeners 15% off your first purchase of $50 or more when you go to kosas.com/whattheworld. Go to Kosas, KOSAS.com/whattheworld for 15% off your first purchase of $50 or more plus free shipping. That's kosas.com/whattheworld. It's a lot like the previous article we just talked about, a little more detail. One line, search history can be incriminating. Manual acquisition is easiest, just searching through the phone manually when they get the order to unlock the phone. This transfers data from a phone to a computer is still unlikely to recover deleted information. When investigators see hidden data, they use a file system acquisition to try and recover those. Physical acquisition is the hardest because it needs special tools to dump a copy of the storage into a file. This lays everything bare, including deleted text. Message recovery can take place. The article states that data isn't deleted until the device actually needs the storage and then it's overwritten. It actually de-indexes it, which is just when your phone forgets where it is. So it's in your phone, but your phone just can't find it. It's still there. It's just lost. Newer iPhones make it even more difficult with them de-indexing deleted things as well as encrypting, and there's no known decryption key. It's difficult, but not impossible to bypass. The cloud can sometimes be easier to obtain deleted data as opposed to the phone itself. The most common files that are recoverable are text messages and iMessages, call history, emails, notes, contacts, calendar events, images, and videos. We've talked about Cellbrite many times on this podcast. It's just the go-to software when people are investigating crimes and getting data off of phones. It's a popular tool basically that extracts data. It specializes in getting past defenses, encrypted or not. WhatsApp will only cooperate with law enforcement before a user has deleted that content from the app, by the way. On June 9th of last year, she searched, is circumstance unknown an accident? Then that same day, one pill can kill, understanding the risks of fentanyl. This is an article that just gives general information about the epidemic in our country with fentanyl overdoses. June 13th, how long does life insurance companies take to pay? Google's answer for that was within 60 days of receiving a death claim. July 18th, she read an article, 2 arrested after teenager ODs on fentanyl-laced marijuana in what police call a dangerous local trend. The same day, she also looked for credit cards to build better credit in 2022. July 28th, she read an article titled The Story Behind Midway's Unfinished Mansion. It explains that the mansion was almost 23,000 square feet and has been unfinished for 5 years. It was initially valued at $7.5 million with 8 bedrooms, 12 bathrooms, 2 kitchens, a pool, a golf simulator, a rock climbing wall, and it was going to be a communal space for rent and usage. There was an unattended death on this property, and the owner never intended for this property to be his primary residence, so he really just abandoned the project, and in 2019, all the work stopped on this mansion. It's huge. He put the property on the market and moved to Guatemala. The 10-acre property was purchased by a young couple relocating to the Heber Valley in January 2022 after spending nearly 2 years on the market. The couple had intended to finish construction and move into the home until the husband unexpectedly passed away shortly after closing the sale on the property. Understandably, the current owner, now widowed, has been preoccupied for obvious reasons and has not resumed construction. She's since relisted the home, and Kouri Richins Realty LLC is the seller with an asking price of $4.7 million. She closed on this house, get this, guys, the day after Eric was murdered. It should be noted, Eric did not want her to buy this property, but as you're going to find later, she really didn't listen to her husband and did what she wanted. On August 1st of last year, she read an article, How to Hire Someone to Write a Book for You. We know she wrote the grief book aimed at kids after her husband allegedly was murdered by her. August 17th, she read an article on the FBI website titled How We Investigate. There are several sub-pages that you can click on: training, tactics, science and technology, intelligence. The same day, she read an article titled Signs of Being Under a Federal Investigation. February 13th of this year, she Googled Detective James Woody's relationship to the Richins family. Remember, Detective Woody is who we went through that interview yesterday with. She also visited a couple of websites about analytics of website traffic, which probably was business related for her. She was sleuthing Detective Woody's voter registration page online at a website called Been Verified. And the same day, she Googled Circle R Ranch in Utah. On May 12th, she Googled an investigator's phone number. All right. So in April of this year, April 19th, she emails some investigators clearly that she's been talking to. The email says, "Hey there, I thought I would clarify some other items on your list you spoke to. It's redacted about." Some of this is redacted. The beginning of February last year, my kids had a soccer tournament in Mesquite. The day before we left, February 2nd of 2022, I tested positive for COVID. I've attached the picture of the test from my counter in my kitchen when I first found out, photo 1. I had sent it to my mom and redacted to let them know because I was just around the both of them. Eric was the coach of the soccer team, and I'm the annoying mom on the sideline that never stops yelling, and she puts a winky face with a tongue sticking out. We don't miss games or tournaments. We're a huge soccer family. When we found out I had COVID, I didn't want to miss the soccer tournament, nor did I want to get my kids sick. So I stayed at Casablanca. I didn't want to risk getting my boys ill during the tournament and them not playing well. I brought a box of home tests with me to test every day so I could either join the boys staying at my father-in-law's or at least be with them during the game. She puts in parentheses, Casablanca is about 5 minutes from the soccer field. Actually, here's a picture of the room number I stayed in. I'd taken a picture for my mom and Eric, and then the parentheses ends. I was still positive every day, pictures attached. I would take pictures of my test to Eric to say still positive. You can check Eric's phone for this. I stood on the sidelines wearing a mask and not interacting with anyone. Happy to get other soccer parents to attest to this. Eric had gotten COVID after we got home from Mesquite. You asked, redacted, about any exotic vacations I've taken since Eric's passing. I went on 2 trips last year. 1, my kids tried out at a soccer camp in Salt Lake City to qualify to play in Spain in June, and both my kids made it. So yes, I took them to Spain in October of 2022. I've attached their invitation letters. Also, Eric and I went to Mexico every year, sometimes twice. We traveled a lot. We have taken the boys to Mexico a few times. We like to go in January. However, January of 2022, we could not go because Eric had his hunting trip to Mexico trip of 2 weeks planned, and it was too much that month. This is not new for us to go to Mexico or for us to go out of the country or on a vacation with our kids. I took my kids and my mom came with us in August of 2022 to Mexico. As I hope you understand, the months prior to this, since Eric's death, have been hard to deal with. No, I've never been to Key West or the Keys in Florida. However, my nanny went with her family in June 2022, so maybe you have something mixed up. Eric's affair was the same year I moved out. The trust was created as well as him looking into a divorce. We're going to get into that probably on tomorrow's episode. I never actually moved out. I moved my clothes out one weekend to make sure Eric understood I'm not kidding about leaving him if he doesn't end things with, and the name is redacted. I did this on a Thursday or Friday while he was out of town. I was home Monday. I never stayed another night at that other house. Eric and I figured things out like most couples do. Redacted, there was her name. He changed her name in his phone so I wouldn't know about it. And honestly, we worked things out. And after that, I never went through his phone again to see if he changed it back. But you have his phone and can check. Girl, you know you checked his phone. Don't lie. Eric and I went to, and it's redacted, some counseling. And we only went about 4 times, maybe. It wasn't for us. 2 people's names are redacted. It says are the same person. And I'm assuming you all know that. Haha. I'm also assuming redacted told Woody her husband got a call from him and gave all this information. LOL. Yet he didn't ever go in to talk to detectives. Ironic how things work. That makes no sense, but it's here, so I'm reading it. Mental health. Yes, I got postpartum after my second child in 2014. Yes, I took medication for it. No, Eric and I did not have financial problems ever. Diabetes. She got a bad case of it, y'all. Yes, Eric made more money than me. Do you make more money than your wives? Have I ever been financially reliant on Eric in the last 5 years? Absolutely not. Eric did not want me working because 1, his first wife cheated on him with a guy at work. Number 2, it's all redacted, so we don't know reason number 2. 3, Eric wanted us to live the typical conservative life where the man takes care of his family and the wife is a homemaker, wife, mom, and that's it. That's not my personality and not the way I was raised. I'm very independent. Even when I stayed home with my kids for the first few years, I was in grad school for years because I wanted to be more and do more than be a homemaker, and I did. And when I did, I started my business. It took some adjusting, but Eric and I were fine with it. We hired my nanny and everything worked out. She starts talking about the nanny. She gives the phone number. Moved out because she was engaged and she and her fiance were moving in together. That was always supposed to be temporary. She worked full-time for Eric and I for years prior to his death. If anyone can tell you about our marriage, it's her. She lived with us. Feel free to call her. Redacted has already submitted her phone records to you to prove that your toll is incorrect. Redacted will also be submitting hers over to you guys today or tomorrow. I'm working on getting mine. However, Eric's business partner is not being cooperative. But you can call Redacted and ask for them, and he would probably give them to you. She then gives a phone number that's redacted. I know what time I went to bed that night, and there is no, she puts in quotes, hole in my story. Hopefully by obtaining 4 phone record documentation, you guys can see this too. Happy to clarify or provide anything else you may need. I just want this over. I just want our lives back and move on and grieve and mourn my husband without looking over my shoulder constantly for you guys or the idiotic private investigator or the Richins family. Whatever I can do to help close this out, just ask. I'll give or tell you what you need or want to know. Please check the lab on those gummies. Then it says, P.S. Chad, I hear you also know our good friends, and those names are redacted. Their son and my son play on the same soccer team. When Eric passed, Redacted took over coaching. You guys could even chat with them if you feel necessary. Chad Hoffenmeyer responded and said, thanks for the clarification, Kouri. I don't know that it matters either, but I appreciate the communication. On April 17th, she sent an email. It says, hey, after you guys left Friday, I was trying to make sure dates were as accurate as possible, but I always feel like something was last year and it was actually several years ago. And she puts the little laughing with tears coming out emoji. Anyway, you asked when my doctor had prescribed the postpartum medication. I believe I told you a few years before Eric passed. However, I emailed my doctor today to get a specific date, and this was her response. I don't even know if this matters for anything, but it was bothering me. Another laughing emoji with tears coming out. It's so funny. Also, Eric's company was started in 2010, not 2012. I think I might have said 2012. That's when we got married. LOL. Again, none of this probably matters, but it was bothering me. She attaches the email from her doctor saying the script was last filled on August 21st, 2018. Ultimately, Kouri had a huge problem with just throwing money out the window like it was nothing. Back in 2019, she began misappropriating monies distributed from Eric's business that were meant for his quarterly tax payments. Kouri said in writing to their accountants that the payments had been made to the IRS and also the Utah Tax Commission, but they had not been made. As of September of 2020, Kouri had charged more than $30,000 on Eric's credit without his knowledge or permission. That same month, Eric found out that Kouri had taken out the home equity line of credit. He found out about the unpaid taxes and the credit card debt. He also discovered Kouri had withdrawn at least $100,000 to which she had no legal right from Eric's bank accounts without his permission or knowledge. He confronted her and she promised to repay the money. By the end of February of 2022, Eric and Kouri's unpaid state and federal tax liability was nearly $200,000. On March 2nd of 2022, the day before he was murdered, Kouri had a phone call with the IRS that lasted nearly 2 hours, an hour and 40 minutes. As far as life insurance policies, Kouri did have 4 policies that were hers. She was the beneficiary. One was for $250,000. Second one was for $1 million. The third was for $100,000, and she forged Eric's signature on this policy in late January of 2022. It became active on February 4th of 2022, ensuring Eric's life and, of course, Kouri as the beneficiary. We know that Kouri was flipping houses, and that seemed to have flopped because she started flipping houses in 2019, and each year she would purchase more and more properties. She would get financing through hard money lenders, which essentially is like a short-term loan. It's non-conforming for commercial or investment properties, and it doesn't come from traditional lenders, but rather people or private companies that accept property or an asset as collateral. After learning what she had done, Eric consulted a divorce attorney and also an estate planner. Tomorrow, we're going to dive into what this estate planner gave as a statement to the courts after Eric had been murdered. It is pretty revealing. So this is all very interesting. The motive seems very clear. She was way in debt over her head. I don't think Eric knew the extent of how bad it was. And I think she murdered him for these life insurance policies and also to be the beneficiary of his estate and will and everything. But Eric was one step ahead, and we're going to talk about that tomorrow. All right, guys, you have a good rest of your day. We'll see you tomorrow.